Okay, 2.0 day 2. We're going to review one more topic before we start chapter 2 for real. So this topic is domain and range, and you should remember it from Algebra 1. Okay, domain and range. For a discrete relation, discrete means it's composed of points. The domain is the input or all the x values. The range is the output or all the y values. And when you list a discrete relation's domain and range, you list the values from lowest to highest, and we do no repeats. So let's look at this relation. It's listed as a bunch of ordered pairs. Okay, domain is always the x values. Okay, the nice way to write it is using set notation. Set uses these squiggly brackets. That means you're going to put a list in there. You could put a shopping list in there, but those always represent a list. Okay, domain is the x values. The x is the first coordinate of the ordered pair. So the domain is 3, 0, and 3. But when I list it, I go from lowest to highest, and I do no repeats. So 3, 0, 3, the lowest is 0. The next highest is 3, and then there's another 3, but I don't list it because I don't include repeats. Okay, range is always the y value. The y values are 11, -4, and 8, and again, lowest to highest. So the lowest is -4. Let me use my set notation. -4. My next highest is 8, and then my third highest is 11. So my range is -4, 8, and 11, and it's just only those three numbers, so it's a list. Okay, for number 2, this is also discrete. It's a bunch of ordered pairs in a table. Domain is still the x values or the input, which are these values. Okay, lowest to highest. Let me use set notation. 3, 9, 27, 81, and 243. Close my set. Okay, for my range, that's the y values. Those are these ones. I'm using set notation. It has to be the curly one because that means a list. Okay, lowest is 3. I don't have to list the 3 twice. It's just 3, then the 5s, then the 7. So my range is 3, 5, and 7. Let's look at the first example. Okay, for example 1, it says find the range of the function with the given domain. So this is my function, f of x equals 5x plus 2. They're telling me the domain is -1, 0, and 3, and they put it as a list. So these are the only x values. X is -1, x is 0, and x is 3. So I'm going to plug x is -1, 0, and 3, and then I'm going to find the range. So let's start with f of -1. Okay, if I plug that in, 5 times -1 plus 2, -5 plus 2, -3. So I got the -1. Let me do the 0 now. So f of 0, 5 times 0 plus 2, which is 0 plus 2, which is 2. And then let me go ahead and plug in x is 3. 5 times 3 plus 2, which is 15 plus 2. So 17. And then it asked me to find the range. I'm going to use capital R for the range and set notation. Okay, the lowest y value is -3, and then 2, and then 17. Okay, so this is what the question asked me for, but I did need to show my work. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do B. You can work ahead if you get the hang of it now. So the given function is h of x equals x squared minus 4x plus 5. My domain is -3, 0, and 2, and it's in set notation. So these are the only x values I'm going to plug in. It does not matter which one you start with. Let's try -3. So what's that? -3, -3, +9, +12, plus 5. 21 plus 5, 26. Okay, what is that? Now let me plug in 0. 0 squared minus 4 times 0 plus 5. What is that? 0 minus 0 plus 5, so just 5. Okay, and then I'm going to plug in 2. So 2 squared. 4 minus 8 plus 5 is 4 minus 8. -4 plus 5 is 1. Okay, then I'm going to list my range. Range is the y values, lowest to highest. The lowest y value is 1, then 5, then 26. Okay, let's try C. G of x equals 3x squared plus 2x plus 5. My domain is -2 and 1. g of negative 2. Okay, now make sure you do your order of operations correctly. I have to do the exponent before the multiplication, so I have to do the negative 2 squared first. So this is 3 times negative 2 squared is 4. So 12 minus 4 plus 5, 8 plus 5 is 13. Okay, let's try 1. Okay, let's go ahead and evaluate it. I still need to do the exponent first. So 1 squared, 1 times 1 is 1. So this is 3 times 1. 3 plus 2 plus 5, 5 plus 5, 10. Okay, it asked me for the range. Lowest y value is 10. Highest is 13. Let's do one more. Okay, j of x. So j of negative 2. 2 times negative 2 minus 1 squared. Okay, I'm going to do the exponent, not the exponent, the parentheses first. So that's going to be 2 times negative 2 minus negative 3 squared. And then if I do the exponent next, negative 3 squared is negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. 2 times 9 is 18. Okay, let's do j of 0. 0 minus 1 squared. Okay, what do I do first? Grouping or parentheses? Yeah. 0 minus 1 is negative 1 squared. And I got to do the exponent. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. 2. Okay, what's next? 1 j of 1. 2 times 1 minus 1 squared. Okay, parentheses first. 1 minus 1 is 0. 0 squared is 0, and 2 times 0 is 0. Okay, one more. 3. 3 minus 1 is 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so for my range, I'm going to put it in order. What's first? 0, then 2, then 8, then 18. Okay, on example, when we were looking at a discrete relationship, this is a continuous relationship, meaning it's a connected graph. This is connected. The domain and range can be represented using either inequality notation or interval notation. Okay, inequality notation uses less than or equal signs, greater than or equal signs. So it could be for a domain, it could be like x is greater than 5. It could be like 3 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 7, but it has inequalities in it. Okay, interval notation is lowest value to highest value. They use parentheses for open circles and infinity. They use brackets for closed circles. So your answer could look like this: 1, 5, lowest first. It could be like 2 to infinity, or it could be negative infinity to 4 bracket, something like that. Okay, hopefully that triggers something from your Algebra 1 memory. Okay, we're going to look at these continuous graphs and we're going to represent our domain and range as both interval and inequality notation. Eventually you'll pick which one you prefer, but you need to be able to read it both ways. Okay, let's start with interval. Interval notation is going to be the lowest and highest value. We're going to use parentheses and brackets. Okay, so for domain is the x values. Okay, I want to do the lowest x value to the highest x value. So I'm going to go along the x-axis to the lowest x value. The lowest x value is negative 3. Oops, gave away the surprise. Okay, at negative 3, there's an open circle. Open circle means parenthesis. Okay, then I do a comma. Okay, the highest x value, the furthest along the x-axis is over here. Okay, but actually it's an arrow. Okay, if it's an arrow and it's pointing in the positive direction, we do positive infinity. Because it's an infinity sign, we do parentheses. Okay, let's look at the range now. Range is in the y direction. Okay, this is the y-axis. I'm going from the lowest point on the y-axis to the highest. The lowest y value is going to be this one right here. That y value is 2. At y equals 2, there's an open circle, so it's a parenthesis. Okay, the highest y value is right here, but that's not really a y value, it's an up arrow. Up arrow infinity. For infinity, we use a parenthesis. Okay, that's interval notation. Now let's look at inequality notation. Okay, inequality notation, domain has to do with the x's. Okay, so if I look at the x values, where do they start? Okay, this is kind of the boundary. It's at -3. Do the x values go right of -3 or left of -3? They go to the right. So it's going to be x is greater than -3. How about the y values? Okay, the y values have to do with, where do the y values start? They start from here. That's y equals 2. Do they go up or down? They go up. So the y values are higher than 2. That's inequality notation. These mean exactly the same thing. There's just two ways to write them. Let's look at the next one. Okay, let's start with interval notation. Domain x's. So on the x-axis, the lowest x value this graph goes to is right here. That is x is 2. At x is 2, there's an open circle. So it's parenthesis 2. Okay, I'm going to keep going. The furthest this goes to is right here. What is that? That's at x equals 4. At x equals 4, there's a closed circle. So 4 bracket means closed. Okay, for a range, we're going to look in the y direction. Along the y-axis, the lowest y value this graph starts at is here. At y is 1, open circle, parenthesis 1. The highest y value this goes to is here. That's a closed circle, so it's going to be 5 bracket. That's interval notation. Okay, and quality notation is a little trickier when it has two numbers here. So let's do the x direction. Okay, in the x direction, I can see that the graph goes from x equals 2 to x equals 4. So the lowest x value is 2. 2 is the lowest x value. The highest x value is 4. So this is going to go this way. Now the thing to be careful of, there's an open circle at 2, so I do less than. There's a closed circle at 4, so it's got to be less than or equal to 4. Okay, and this is the exact as this. Okay, now in the y direction, it's got to do with the y's. The y values go from 1 to 5. Okay, so the lowest y value is 1. Okay, it doesn't equal to 1 because it's an open circle. The highest y value is 5. Does it equal 5? Yes, because there's a closed circle. Let's try the next one. Okay, interval notation, x's. Closed circle at -4. Closed circle at 2. Okay, for an equality notation, that means the lowest is -4. Since it's a closed circle, it can equal. Highest is 2. And it can equal because it's a closed circle. Now let's check the range. The lowest y value is 1. The highest y value is 2. And that's closed to closed. So bracket 1, bracket 2. For the range, the lowest y value is 1. Since it's a closed circle, it can equal to y. The highest y value is 2. And it can equal because it's a closed circle. We will keep going. If you start to get the hang of it, go ahead and work ahead. Okay, domain x's. Lowest x value is way over here. Open. Comma. The highest x value, this graph keeps going all the way until I get way over to here. So the domain goes all the way to 4, and there's a closed circle at 4. Okay, in inequality notation, the lowest x value is -4. It's open, no equals, goes all the way to 4, closed. Okay, for your range, the very lowest y value is way down here, and that's open. Now, where's the very highest y value? Is it here? No, it's way up here. And at 4, there's actually a point there, so it can equal 4, so we use a bracket. Okay, for interval inequality notation, the lowest y value is -3. It's an open circle, so it doesn't equal. The highest is 4, and it does equal 4, so you put equals there. Let's try the next one. Okay, x value left. Lowest is, what is that, -1, -2, -3, and it's open. Okay, the highest is way over here, but that's not high, that's an arrow. It's a right arrow, which means it's positive infinity. Infinity is always a parenthesis. Okay, for inequality notation, where is this? It goes -3 and it goes to the right, so x is greater than -3. Okay, range. The lowest y value, well, the lowest y value is the arrow. Since it's going down, this is negative infinity, or because it's first. The highest y value is up here, which is 2 with a parenthesis. Okay, for inequality notation, it has something to do with the 2. Is it higher or lower than 2? It's all lower, so y is less than 2 is my inequality notation. Okay, let's try f. Okay, left inequality, left arrow, ooh, negative infinity. The furthest to the right, right arrow, positive infinity. Okay, how do we do inequality notation? Well, actually, it's because it's all the numbers. So the fancy way to write all the numbers is we want to say all real numbers, so we use this fancy R. That means all real numbers. Means it can be any number. Now let's look in the y direction. The lowest y value is, oh, there is a lowest y value. It's at -3. And the point does touch the -3, so it's going to be bracket -3. The highest y value is actually the up arrow, so infinity. Okay, for the inequality notation, I have y is -3. Does the graph go up or down from there? It goes up, so it's greater. It touches the -3, so it's equal to -3. Let's look at the next one. Okay, domain. Oh, I want to go here, but it's actually a left arrow. So negative infinity, comma, x2 closed. Okay, for inequality notation, it has something to do with a 2. So I have an x, I have a 2. It can definitely equal because it's closed. Does the graph go lower or higher than 2? Okay, it goes less than because it's going to the left. Okay, range. Lowest y value is -1, -2, -3, -4. Closed. Highest y value, looks like it's up here, but it's really an arrow, so infinity. Okay, for range, range is the y's, and it has to do with the -4. Does the graph go up or down from -4? It goes up, greater than or equal to, because it's a closed circle. Okay, last one. Okay, interval notation, domain, left arrow, negative infinity. Right arrow, there's still an arrow, so it's positive infinity. So negative infinity to infinity. Inequality notation, it can be everything. So we do the fancy R to mean it can be any real number. We haven't learned non-real numbers yet, but we will in chapter 3. Okay, range, lowest, down arrow. Highest, up arrow. Inequality notation, all real numbers.